Arcanists in the Elder Scrolls Online are stronger than ever now thanks to subclassing. Not only do you have great damage skills and sustain thanks to your amazing skills and passives as an Arcanist, but now you can get even more damage, more utility, and more healing from other class skill lines. With that in mind, I decided to update one of my favorite builds, the solo 1-bar Stamina Arcanist, to use subclassing, and the results were absolutely amazing, all while using an extremely easy 1-bar rotation and no trials gear necessary. So if you're ready to take your 1-bar Arcanist to the next level, this is definitely the video for you, and let's jump right into it. Alright everybody, here we are back on another subclassing build. This time we're checking out the solo 1-bar Stamina Arcanist, updated for subclassing, so I'm mixing in a couple of extra classes here to the Arcanist toolkit that are going to make the build a lot more effective and actually a lot more fun to play. So let's dive into it, checking out the buff stats first on this setup. Just as a baseline, you're looking at about 14k max magicka, 24k max health, about 29k max stamina. Really solid recoveries across the board, as well as damage, as well as crit chance. A lot of this stuff does go up in combat. By the way, particularly our crit chance, that'll get close to like 70-75%, thanks to some of the subclassing options that we're using. So yeah, this build has a lot of great offensive potential, both for soloing and for groups, but primarily solo with the setup is what we're looking at. Now, it is a Stamina Arcanist, so we're still going to drop 64 points into max stamina. The stone for this build, of course, is going to be the Thief, just to max out that crit chance as high as possible. You can see a lot of the other buffs that we're getting here. Most of these are going to come from gear sets, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But in terms of our other consumables, food buff, I like Artaeum Takeaway Broth for this if you have access to it. That's just going to give you max health, max stamina recovery, and health recovery. Cheaper option would be Dubious Cameron Throne. That's going to be almost all the same stats except for the health recovery line. That one is completely fine as well. Now for potions, you can probably get by with just max stamina potions. I'm currently using tri-stat potions. And then in terms of the race, Khajiit is going to be your ideal race for soloing on this build, and that comes mostly because of Feline Ambush giving you 12% critical damage and critical healing. That's really huge on this build, particularly with how much critical chance we have access to. You also get more max stats, you get more recoveries as well. Now, if you are considering doing a lot of group content with the 1-bar setup, Khajiit is not ideal. I can show you guys actually we're pretty close to the crit damage cap. We're at 105% crit damage unbuffed. With Arcanist passives, you're looking at about 117, which is extremely close to the 125 crit damage cap. Yeah, if you're interested in doing a more organized group content, I definitely would go with something that has more of weapon and spell damage and max stats in terms of buffs. So that would be like Dark Elf or Orc in that case. Let's go ahead and jump into the gear sets next here. A couple of interesting options we're going to have access to moving forward into Update 46, the Seasons of the Worm Cult. First of those is going to be a new crafted set called Tideborn Wildstalker. This is going to be particularly good for if you have an Arcanist, if you have a Templar. This increases your direct damage done to monsters by 12%. And in this new update, the Arcanist Beam, Templar Execute, those are switching from damage over time actually to direct damage. So with Tideborn, you get a nice offensive boost. You even get offensive penetration, crit chance, weapon, and spell damage. And this is craftable, so you can craft this in whatever, weights and traits that work best for your build. And now with this being the 1-bar setup, obviously I only need front bar weapons. I went with dual wield dagger here, so I've got a Nirnhond main hand as well as precise offhand using shock and poison glyph. That's going to give me 2 set bonuses. And then I did craft a heavy armor chest. I usually recommend this for solo builds just for a little bit of extra armor. You can also make use of the Undaunted guild passives for using all 3 armor types to get some more maximum stats on your build. So heavy chest, nice way to go there with divines, max stamina. That's going to be 3 pieces. And then just the last 2 are going to be on the jewelry. So we have a Tideborn necklace, Tideborn ring with Bloodthirsty, and the weapon and spell damage enchant. So it's going to be our first 5-piece set. Like I said, this is going to be a really nice option for some particular classes where you have a lot of direct damage abilities. Moving on to our second 5-piece set, not really a surprise. We're using Deadly Strike here. Similar bonuses, similar stats, 15% damage over time and channeled attack bonus here. So that's also going to apply to our main damage effects, right? For the Arcanist, which is your Pragmatic Fate Carver, still going to buff that nicely because it's a channeled effect. Most of you, if you have an Arcanist, particularly a Stamina Arcanist, you probably already have this set, and it's still going to be really good in the new update, update 46. So we're running this just 5 pieces of medium on the body. That's what it comes with. It's a Cyrodiil set. You can also get it from guild traders. So we've got the deadly boots, legs, hands, waist, also the helmet, all divines if you can get it, all max stamina. You can see we're not able to run a monster set. You probably know that means we're running a mythic, but we're also running a 1-piece monster shoulder. This is going to give us 657 crit chance using the light slime cross shoulder here. Make sure you have max stamina on that one. Divines if you can. And then since we are doing the 1-bar setup, good old Oaken Soul ring here. Bloodthirsty on all the jewelry. Not sure if I mentioned that. With the weapon and spell damage enchant, this is what's giving us all the nice buffs on our stat sheet, major and minor buffs, letting us get everything we need with the 1-bar rotation. So really nice option, even for subclassing, though you do have to kind of get the right skills in, which we're going to talk about next, obviously. Now, I'll have some other options listed in the written guide for like a more defensive setup, which is going to be even better for soloing if you want a little bit more protection. This is going to be your all-out offensive setup with Deadly and Tideborn. So yeah, check out the written guide if you want to see more examples. Link for that will be down below. But let's talk about the skills next, and especially subclassing. And now there are many ways you can do this. This is just what I found worked best, particularly for a 1-bar build. 1-bar builds, you guys, are a totally different thing than 2-bar builds. Obviously, you have 6 skill slots instead of 12. So you really have to think about, okay, what skills do I absolutely need to help my build survive and do more damage? And also what passives are going to help me the most with only 1 skill bar. Now, obviously, in terms of damage, we've got Herald of the Tome that's giving us Fate Carver. This is our main damage skill. It also gives us a huge 12k damage shield, which helps a lot with the protection for this build. You can cast this at any time, but it's obviously a lot better if you have 3 Crux built up because it's going to increase the damage and decrease the cost. Now, talking about Crux, you have Cephaliarch's Flail. This is your Crux builder. Fate Carver is a Crux spender. So with Flail, not only does this do nice physical damage in front of you, it also immobilizes enemies. It causes them to take more damage. It also gives you a pretty nice heal, particularly if it crits. It's going to be about a 10k heal each time you cast this against an enemy. So this is good to help maintain your healing in between those Fate Carver beams and shields. Now we're also running recuperative treaties, and you probably are assuming, well, why would you run this if you have Oaken Soul Ring, right? Because you already get major brutality and major sorcery from Oaken Soul Ring, but that's not the really good reason to run the skill. The good reason to run this skill is the top part of the tooltip, where this generates 1 Crux every 5 seconds when you're dealing damage if you have none. So basically what happens with this is as soon as you spend your 3 Crux on a beam, you'll immediately get 1 Crux. So instead of starting at 0, you pretty much start at 1. So it only takes 2 casts of Flail to get to 3 Crux versus having to cast this 3 times in total. That's a really good advantage. Not only that, you get 600 magicka and stamina, so it helps a lot with sustain. Not only that, for this build, since it is very simple, 1-bar build, that extra stamina and magicka restore is going to be the only way to proc this passive Harnessed Quintessence. I think I'm saying that right. When you restore magicka or stamina, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 284 for 10 seconds. This is the only skill that we have on the 1-bar setup that's giving us stamina and magicka. So we're getting that passive. If you don't run recuperative, you're not going to get that passive. That's just like 3 really good reasons to run recuperative treaties other than major brutality and sorcery, which we already have. Finally, we got Languid Eye. Yeah, there's a lot of Arcanist skills on this build. It makes it pretty interesting. It's just a really strong ultimate. It's probably going to be the best in terms of the 3 class kits that I'm using. Yeah, it just makes sense. I like how this is a pretty low cost 175 ultimate, and we're actually getting some ultimate generation from the other subclasses that we're using, which is going to help you cast this even faster. So that is our Herald of the Tome. Let's move into our next subclassing skill line. Main class is Arcanist, obviously, by the way. Next up, we're going to be using Assassination, which comes from the Nightblade class. Probably one of the most popular skill lines that's going to be available with subclassing. And probably the main reason for that is this skill, Grim Focus. I've got the Relentless Focus morph. This gives you 40 weapon and spell damage with 10 stacks. So basically 400 bonus weapon and spell damage if you hold on to all 10 stacks. That's a huge passive damage bonus that you're going to have access to at all times. For this build, we have much better damaging skills. We have the Fate Carver Beam, so there's really no reason to cast this. So you can just hang on to those stacks. It's a passive skill, essentially, giving you a huge bonus. Now, the nice thing about this, particularly for playing solo, is it does give you a burst heal if you decide to use it if you're in melee range. So what that looks like is if I'm in melee range and I have at least 5 stacks built up, I can fire off that arrow and you can see I got a 13k burst heal from Relentless Focus. And since I had 10 stacks, I even have another one saved up. That one didn't crit, so I got about 6k. But then it's easy just to build that up again. Your light attack weaving in between your skills anyways, and you'll get that built up pretty quick. So yeah, definitely reserve that, I would say, for the buff and then for the healing if you need it. But the other really good reason to use this skill line for subclassing, even on a 1-bar build, is the passives, which are giving us a ton of bonuses here. You can see we get almost 7% crit chance if we're flanking a target. We get 1,000 magicka and stamina restored. That's crazy good for this build. Pressure points gives us even more crit chance for running those Nightblade abilities, and hemorrhage gives us 10% bonus critical damage. Plus minor savagery, even more crit chance. So yeah, the passives on this skill line alone pretty much make it very nice for soloing and for DPS builds. And of course, you can run that extra skill for even more damage and a free burst heal when you need it. So that's Assassination. And then my third skill line that I've chosen here is going to be Animal Companions. The main reason I've chosen this is I did need, for soloing, a source of major breach. And so Deep Fissure is actually one of the best skills in the game for that. This one costs magicka, so it's not draining our main resource. It also has a nice long duration. It casts multiple times in that duration. AoE damage in front of you, so it kind of matches up the damage scope in terms of being like in a straight line, just like your Fate Carver Beam would be. And yeah, not only do we get major breach, we get minor breach. So that's about a 10k armor debuff on targets. This is going to make a huge difference, you guys, in more difficult content. If you're thinking of soloing dungeons and arenas, those enemies typically have the maximum of armor, which is over 18,000 physical and spell resistance. So yeah, having that extra basically 10k armor debuff available to you is going to make a big difference. Now for soloing, the Animal Companions passives are actually not bad either. You get a little heal when you cast any of those skills. You get Ultimate Generation every 8 seconds. I talked about that. You get a massive 20% stamina and magicka recovery boost. That's pretty helpful on this build. And then you also get 5% bonus crit damage per ability slotted. Yeah, I tested a lot of different skill lines, and I just think this one, Animal Companions, was surprisingly good. I don't know if I would say it's the best, but for this version of the build, it works really well. But that's the cool thing, right? Is you can experiment with other subclassing skill lines. You could try, for example, the Sorcerer is going to be a really popular option with Stormcalling. You know, you could use Stormcalling, put Crit Surge on your Arcanist, and now you have a ton of extra healing. You could also do, you know, Dragon Knight Ardent Flame, pick up Fiery Breath and morph it to Noxious Breath, and now you have a really strong AoE Poison Dot that also has Major Breach. Yep, there are different versions of this build that will work, but for me, I just found this version with these three to be the most effective and easy to play in terms of putting the rotation together. Speaking of which, you can see the skills here. Let's go ahead and do just a quick rotation to show you how it works. Really easy on the 1-bar setup. Like I said, you'll just want to keep up Recuperative Treaties, keep that buff going. You'll be casting your Deep Fissure every 9 seconds or so when it expires. And then to build up Crux, you're just doing 2 flails. And once you get to 3, you can see the 3 triangles, or you can see Fate Carver line up. That's when you go right into the Fate Carver Beam. And pretty much you just recast your skills as they fall off. So Deep Fissure is off, I need to cast that. Treaties is about to drop, so I need to cast that. 2 flails, and then another beam. Obviously, if your ultimate is ready, you can put that into your rotation. I would cast it right before I do my beam, so kind of like this. Then do the beam, that way you have sort of a maximum burn happening at the same time. Refresh Fissure. Have time for another beam here. Gonna have to rebuff Recuperative Treaties and Fissure. 2 more flails again. You can see the sustain is really good on this build. I don't even really need a potion. Okay, let's do Deep Fissure. Probably just 1 more time on that guy. A couple more beams should finish it off. And there you go. Super easy rotation with the 1 bar setup. Let's jump into champion points next really quick. As usual, these will be posted in the written guide. Over there, you can find 300, 600, 900, and 1200 point versions of the CP loadout, but I'll just go over the slotted stars here really quick. So in the green tree, I typically pick up Steed's Blessing, followed by Master Gatherer, Gifted Rider, and Warmount. In the blue tree, things are actually kind of interesting for the Arcanist. You have some good options here. You'll definitely want Master at Arms now that Beam is considered to be direct damage. You'll also be wanting to pick up Fighting Finesse as usual. Wrathful Strikes is a really good option. Essentially, the more damage that we deal, the more healing we're going to get back. And that's thanks to this other CP star here called Reaving Blows. So when you deal direct damage, you heal for 8% of the damage done. I'm not sure if you saw that when I was doing the beam, but just to kind of showcase that. Most of my abilities are direct damage, so they're going to be giving me a heal, an extra heal back from Reaving Blows. So you can see with Flail, I'm getting 2 heals. That's really nice. And then you can see from Beam, each tick of Beam is giving me some really nice passive healing too. So that's almost like a Ring of the Pale Order just built into this build, which is going to be really nice for solo play. So yeah, check that one out. Reaving Blows. The heals are small enough where I don't think it's too overpowered, but on builds like this where you have a lot of direct damage, I think it is a very nice option. Don't forget, in your blue tree, pick up Staving Death as well. All these defensive passives here, like Preparation especially, for 10% damage reduction. And then in the red tree, just picking up the usual here, Rejuvenation, Fortified, and then Boundless Vitality. In terms of the final slotted star I would recommend here would be Bastion, just for that extra damage shield boost by 15%. And then if you're curious about the outfit style, this is actually a costume. This is the Fate Scryer that comes from the Chronicle of Fate quest. So it's going to wrap up this build video for the solo Stamina Arcanist. But don't forget that we have a written guide with all the alternate skills, gear, passives, champion points, and much more listed. Just grab the link for that down below. And if you're liking the new subclassing builds, I'm also releasing even more for our Tier 2 channel members called the Elite Squad, like our Unkillable Druid build, which combines powerful fire and lightning magic along with animal companions to fight by your side. I've been having a ton of fun with this build too lately because it truly feels like a brand new class, a fully functioning Druid in ESO. It's epic. The members of our Tier 2 Elite Squad can unlock this build right now, along with dozens of other members-only builds and guides. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, it really is the best way to do it because you get a truckload of bonus content, not to mention early access to videos and members-only Discord. Just be sure to select the Elite Squad option if you're interested, as this is the only membership with new content. To get started, just click on the join button down below or the membership link in the description to see our complete library of members-only builds and guides. And huge shout out as always to our channel members who make this channel possible. I truly could not do what I do without you, so thanks again. Thanks to all of you for watching this video. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next one.